conversation we had about was, I guess, the struggle with high school guards and JUCO guards getting recruited now that there's a transfer portal. There's always been a struggle getting recruited as a guard, especially a small guard, because,
Yes.
like you said, guards are a dime a dozen. So, talk about how hard it is for guards to be recruited, especially at your level or even a higher level.
When one thing when you look at guards and a kid sends me a highlight tape and they say they're a point guard, and the first thing I see is them shooting threes.
Mm-hmm.
I go, okay, you're not a point guard. The point guard's gonna run the offense and make other people better. You're a 6-foot kid or shorter, jacking up threes at the college level. That's going to be pretty tough to do.
That's true.
And in many ways, Steph Curry kind of blew the world up, right?
He did.
Because he shoots, walks away down the floor. He knows it's going in. Steph Curry was never a big guard, but people don't understand his work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
In the off season, he makes 500 shots a day. During the season, he makes 200 shots a day.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say he even shoots 50%.
Right.
He's putting up 1,000 shots a day in the summer, 400 shots a day during the season. Now, how many kids are doing those numbers?
Not many.
And he's genetically different. His dad was an NBA player. His brother's an NBA player. So he's a rarity in the world. He's not the average.
No,
and he isn't a big, he isn't a big guard. So for small guards, I look at, can you run the offense and can you defend? And if I'm a guard, my job as a defender is to make the ball handler uncomfortable.
Right.
If that ball handler is able to look and survey the floor, that's not enough defensive pressure. A good defensive pressure, the guard has to turn his body, has to try to spin dribble to get a release from pressure. Then you're doing your job. And it always amazes me, kids that are 6 foot or shorter, and they play defense with their hands down by their knees. Well, now you just went from 6 feet to 18 inches.
Right, even shorter.
Yeah. When that guard's looking, we tell our guys to be a moose. Put your thumbs to your ears and take their vision away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a challenge trying to get our guys to do that. Because, we're dealing with at college habits that have been developed. Kids starting to play travel ball in tournaments at 7 years old. So we're dealing with 11 years of training that we're now trying to change to the way we want it played.
And possibly one season.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It is pretty difficult.
Yeah, very difficult.
Yeah, so how has the transfer portal? You talked about losing 2 of your best players to D1, then they're going to one school.
Yes.
How has it? Because Spring Hill, you guys are like a high academic school, right?
Correct. Yes.
So how now? I've always thought with the recruitment process that being a really good kid, it's harder to transfer to a high academic institution. So how do you think the transfer portal has affected high academic institutions in general?
That's a great question. There's a couple things when it comes to recruiting, and I dealt with some of this weekend, and it's really frustrating. I talked to a coach about a kid, and I said, this kid's a senior and a pretty nice prospect. What does the kid want to major? I don't know.
Right.
What's his GPA or test score? I don't know.
Right.
How do you not know a senior who's been in your program for several years?
Right.
So that's a frustration for us being a high academic school, because we've got to get kids who can succeed here. And for us, 20 ACT, 10-20 SAT, those kids should be okay.
Right.
In the transfer portal, and what kids don't understand in the transfer portal, there's nothing but your information. Has the kid been a multiple transfer? Does he want to be contacted? Was he on scholarship? There are no statistics. There's no GPA. There's no film. There's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago, we had a kid go in the portal. An hour later, he texts me. He says, nobody's contacted me yet. I mean, that's the naivety of this whole thing,
Right.
is that kids think, I'm going in the portal, people are going to contact me.
Right.
Well, unless they recruited you previously, and getting you as a bounce back, what's the rationale for them to want to recruit you?
Right.
They don't know who you are. There's nothing. The transfer portal is not a recruitment tool. It's simply a database. And so a lot of kids don't understand that. They see the great players going because the top players in the country, if you're a top 100 high school player in the country, you're being recruited by a lot of good schools.
Right.
And schools like that can keep track of you, and then they have people, GAs and stuff. All they're doing is following your career to see if you're going to transfer again. So for us, it's really tough because we don't know what a kid's GPA is when we look at them in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
We now have to start to do due diligence, contact their coaches. And do you really think their coaches want to talk about a kid who's leaving their school? Some of them do, and others don't. They don't care where the kid goes afterwards.
Yeah, they don't. A lot of schools don't want to talk about the kid at all.
Yeah, if the kid's leaving me, I mean, in our situation, it's a little different in the sense that we're trying to help kids get to the next level in life.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it hurt us losing two really good players, they went to another level, and we were happy with them for being able to do that.
Why do you think some of the best coaches are, considerably at the D1 level, we've seen championship and Final Four coaches resign because of NIL and the transfer portal? I guess it's two questions. First, I'm going to ask you, why do you think a lot of coaches are resigning at that level? Also, has any coaches been resigning at the D2 level?
Yeah, that's another really good question. I think these coaches who have been in here in a long time, and, you look at a coach like Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, who built everything around, if you want to use the word family,
right?
It was built about getting the right guys in, developing a culture of success for them, and it required keeping guys for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't learn things overnight. And so guys like this are all of a sudden seeing the way this is going with guys jumping ship left, right, and center, and they're going, hey, this isn't the world that we were involved with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be involved in this. And then when it comes to the NIL, eventually the people that are donating to the NIL are going to say, hey, I put in X amount of dollars. You told me this high school kid's going to be great, and he isn't that good.
Right.
So eventually that money's going to dry up.
Yeah, that's true.
And, I gave you X amount of money for this kid. We put it into the NIL collective, and now he went to another school.
Right.
There's an old story, and I'm not going to name the schools, but there were SEC football powerhouses. And this is when you couldn't give money to kids. So the one school, they offered the kid a brand new double-wide mobile home.
Mm-hmm.
And in another school, they gave the kid $60,000 in cash. Both at that time were violations.
Right.
And then the kid went to a third different school.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's got $60,000 in cash, and he got a brand new double-wide.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody could say anything back then. Well, now it's wide open, because anybody can get paid through the NIL in its various forms. But people are now going to say, hey, I want a return on my investment.
True.
So it's really tough. Coaches are leaving because it's just the older coaches. This is just a different world, and it's changed dramatically in the last couple of years. And it's not the world that they enjoy.
Right.
At the D2 level, I don't know of any coaches that have resigned. I certainly have seen it with athletic directors. Mm-hmm. A huge change in athletic directors leaving as well.
Mm-hmm. Because
this wasn't the world that they grew up with. This wasn't the way college athletics is going. And it had always, been a bit of a business, but now it's a big-time business.
Yes, it is a big-time business. You're right. We could start seeing people complain about kids' stats or leaving, even asking for money back, or even, we've seen players are now suing coaches because of NIL promises.
Correct.
We could possibly see donors suing the university or suing athletes for not, like you said, for not producing or for leaving.
Yeah, I
We
mean, if there's a chance for a lawyer to sue somebody, that's their business, and they're going to look to do it.
Exactly. So if somebody's like you said, somebody gave somebody 60,000 in cash, so now it's like, I know, like back in the day, Kentucky gave somebody like 160,000 or something like that, and that was, if that player leaves early or doesn't produce, you really can't say anything because you weren't supposed to do it. But now,
Yeah.
if a donor give a kid 160,000 and they don't produce or they get hurt, could that donor sue the school or could they sue the athlete once the athlete makes it to the pros?
Well,
Um,
and that's, those are things contractual litigation that may or may not occur depending on, what was signed in the agreement.
hmm
Certainly, if you signed a kid to an NIL and he was supposed to show up and do promos for a business and the guy doesn't show up, you would think that there's a breach of contract in there.
Right. So. Yeah, Coach, I just want to thank you so much for giving me some of your time to interview you and talk about some NIL and transfer talk. I know we had some great conversations over the phone and through text about it, and I definitely just wanted to get you on and just talk about it, and I appreciate you so much.
Oh, listen, my pleasure. Anything I can do, and I appreciate you and all the work you do, buddy.
Hey, man, enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you have an amazing season, Coach.
Yeah, thank you so much. And on behalf of the Badgers, we wish everybody a prosperous and peaceful and blessed New Year.
All right, happy holidays, Coach. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks, Nathaniel.
All right, bye.